as runners, we have the opportunity every day to, whether we live in a big city or whether we live in the mountains, like if we open our eyes and our hearts to what's around us, it really is beautiful what has been created, for us to experience as, humans on this earth.
Hello, everybody. You are listening to In the Company of Charity podcast. My name is Sister Liz, and I'm here with my co-host in crime, Sister Elizabeth. Hello, Sister Elizabeth. How are you?
I'm very well, Sister Liz, and how are you?
I'm fabulous, beginning Lent, of course.
I know. Holy Happy Lent. I don't know. You don't say Happy Lent, really.
A
You say
blessed Lent,
Blessed
Sister Liz?
Lent. Hope it's prayerful and full of almsgiving
If
and
you
fasting, of
are,
course.
yes, and prayer.
Yeah.
If you're new to the podcast, welcome. We're glad to have you.
Yeah.
Lent is that special time of 40 days that we prepare for Easter and take on that prayer, fasting, and almsgiving.
There you
And
go.
we have done so very much in the state of Texas at this point in history. We personally, at our house where the sisters live, did not lose power or water.
Thank
But
God for that. But
yes, we were very grateful. But many of our staff and clients at our place lost a lot. So,
yeah.
yeah, we were able to help people out with some food and make some deliveries and different things. And so, grateful to be a resource for people who are in need.
Yeah, it's just so amazing when you realize how fragile things are. I mean, we just spent a year of just such struggle, and then we're 2021 is coming in with its own challenges, and we just need to keep praying and praying for people everywhere, but certainly we're praying for the folks in Texas. So
Yes, we're on the mend.
yes, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Lent is a great time to kind of refocus and put things in perspective. And we have a really fun episode this time, and the connection to Lent has to do with the stylites.
Oh,
Saint Simeon, can you explain? Because okay, first we have Seth deMoor on, which is just bizarre and bonkers for me. I just love him. He's a great dude, super dynamic YouTuber, great following, and a runner, ultra runner, etc. Very accomplished guy, and just so glad to have him on the podcast. But he mentions saints that he really enjoys, and they are the stylites.
yeah, they sound like a rock band or something from the 1960s, but I have to say, I'm not a runner. I think I say this every time we interview or you interview. What are they? Extreme runners? Is that
Ultra runners,
ultra runners? Ultra runners.
extreme runners. They are
Please, that's
extreme.
a different category, right? We'll get some extreme runners this season. We had the ultra runners last season, but I laugh every time because it's like, oh, I ran a marathon. I'm doing this. I don't run. I just don't. I'm not a
Nowhere. You don't
runner.
run it. You
No,
run to the store,
I run
maybe.
to the store. I run errands. Yeah, I do that kind of stuff. But I do it in my car. I always laugh, like I'll drive someplace and they'll be like, oh, it took me like 10 minutes to get there. And it was like 5 miles or something, or maybe longer. And I'm thinking, people run this distance. I don't understand that. Like, that was a long way to get here. But all of that aside, Seth does mention the stylites. These are saints back in like the 2, 3, 400s, mostly in like Turkish. They're mostly Coptic or Orthodox saints, and Saint Simeon is one of the first. And they literally that even just living in a monastery wasn't.
Extreme
In a
enough.
hermitage wasn't extreme enough for them, right? So that this guy literally built a platform on a pole. They're pole sitters. That's what I mean. When you think about that, you might kind of have an image of that. But in their day, this was the ultimate asceticism, and so that's who he mentions. And I was like, okay, now I can get into this. We can put the running aside. We can talk about pole sitting saints. I am all about that. And the endurance. So I get it. I'm like, this now makes sense to me. So an ultra runner who like thinks about a saint who sits on a pole as an example of endurance and
It's
faith and
perfection.
asceticism. I am all about that. So you won me over with that one. So check out the Stylites, check out Saint Simeon the pole
Saint
sitter.
Simeon.
Yeah, there's still one of these poles apparently somewhere in Jordan. I think it's the only one left, and they can go up to like 50 feet. I think his first one that he started was like maybe 8 feet or something. It wasn't really high, but it was high enough, you know. And then he just kept building one higher and higher. So yeah, it's a thing. It was a thing. It's not really a thing now, but it was.
We have different forms
Now
of,
we have ultra runners, you know, so
yeah,
everyone's
man.
got their asceticism, their thing that challenges them to go just beyond the beyond for really, I think it's for an experience, an ultimate ultra experience with God, you know, that putting yourself in that challenge kind of maybe, I don't know, maybe it makes you say like when you're in the 20th mile of a 25-mile marathon or something like, Jesus, take the wheel, you know? I
You
mean,
need
just
it.
like,
You
get me
need that
there.
extra
So
help,
I think
man.
that's probably it. So you got me there. You got me there. I'm good with that. So
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I really love about him and what he's doing is it's not just one thing. It's not just running. It's not just these, he just does really funny like shoe reviews, and you see him out running the trails in the mountains, and real, I mean, even epic cinematography that
yeah,
he's a real
check out his
filmmaker
YouTube
too.
channel. I mean, he's really is amazing. It's amazing, and I love that he's a storyteller. That was the other. I like to tell stories. You know, I think storytelling is just a way that we can communicate God's love and you know, the way that God works in the world through the stories of people's lives. And so and he's a great storyteller, so so I'm all about him. Yeah, he's awesome. It's
So
awesome.
for
Check
those
him
of us
out for
who
sure.
maybe we're decreasing our screen time during these 40 days, if you're
Yeah.
going to devote screen time to anything, his YouTube channel is worth watching. Daily vlogs and epic little movies and different things. So check it out, and a man of faith, a man of virtue
Mhm.
and family, and that really comes through.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so just giddy and excited to have him on, because fellow runner and somebody who's really not just accomplished in that area, but also promoting things like virtue and discernment and pushing through when things are hard and being there for your family and creating that balance for your life, and those are things that are timeless. And so thank you to Seth for being a part of our little our little show here. it's
That's
it's
right.
so
Yeah.
awesome.
It was awesome. Yeah, I think you're really going to enjoy it. And as Sister Liz is saying, I think it's a great one for us to begin Lent. Might not sound like it, ultra runners, you know, like, but the endurance, the asceticism, the kind of fasting from other things in order to, um, you know, to make these things happen, that part of discernment, I think all of it fits. And so enjoy the episode, everyone, and check out Saint Simeon the Stylite.
So,
Yeah.
Seth, thank you so much for taking the time. It really means a lot. And you're the guy who says yes to an interview from a complete stranger randomly emailing you.
I love it. I love it. Well, we are united in Christ, so we're not strangers there, right?
Exactly. You do these videos, you got shoe reviews, you're doing your training, all this race footage and stuff that you're putting out there. And I was watching, I thought, is that a scapular? Is this guy talking about virtue, and
Yes.
he's talking about discernment and seeking beauty? And so I guess, for me, that raises the faith alarms. Uh,
Sure.
where does that come from for you? And tell us a little bit about your faith background, I guess.
Yeah, that is very astute observation from the YouTube video. So I'll be curious at some point maybe to hear how you just how you found the channel as well. But yeah, so I am Catholic, raised Catholic here in Colorado. I was born and raised in Buena Vista, Colorado. So it's a little small mountain town here in the Rockies. And gosh, oh my goodness, the faith story is something else. Raised Catholic a little bit for me, as you know, I think a lot of teenagers struggle a little bit with
Mm.
just being lukewarm and trying to figure out what does it really mean to live out their faith in the modern world as a Catholic. And and all your friends, some of them are Catholic, some of them are not. Grew up actually going to a lot of Young Life activities,
Cool.
which was great and amazing, and taught me a lot about scripture, and it was awesome. But at the end of the day, it was really when I went off to the University of Colorado in Boulder, of all places, where I really started to discover my faith and the beauty of the sacraments, because I obviously knew about confession and the Eucharist and confirmation I had gone through in high school, but the depth of my Catholic faith really wasn't discovered until college. So in Boulder, of all places, which a lot of people are surprised by that. So yeah, that's, oh my goodness, that's a little background, and that's where I really discovered as a Catholic, what it means to discern. And that's where that word discernment I'm always putting into the YouTube videos presently, because being a long distance runner, discerning your training, discerning what races to go through, it really is a moment of, for me personally, of prayer and of pausing and, just thinking and reflecting back on, where I've been and where I hope to be in the future. So anyway, I'll leave it. I could go into
Yeah.
much more depth, but that's a little background.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes people think that when you're into your faith, or that when your faith is important to you, that's you have to, I guess, basically do what I did, become professionally religious in a way.
Yeah.
But you're an example of somebody who's living out their faith every day as a quote unquote regular person.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious to know what your sense of calling and how that sort of integrates for you. And you have your family life, you have this career that is so accomplished, and then YouTube and socials and all that good stuff, and the community that you're creating there.
Hmm.
Do you see that as a calling? Is that something that you felt like at some point I said, okay, I'm gonna go in this direction. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm drawn that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, so I'll try and be concise. Is So back to discernment, and I didn't really understand adoration in middle school or high school, and so I was introduced to adoration in college, and that was a big moment where going before Christ in the Eucharist, and that really changed my life. I think it was my sophomore year of college where yeah, it just was like, wow, you can actually sit and listen to God's calling for your life in adoration. That was a big moment for me. And then it just only increased, as I went through college all the way up to my senior year. Now, I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball here. I don't know if you know about this.
Go for it.
So this is so part of my discernment out of college. I always loved video production and storytelling, and felt this, I was going to become a teacher. And I was discerning the priesthood as well and going to seminary, but it wasn't, I didn't quite hear that call to go into the seminary. So I was thinking about becoming a teacher. And before I launched my current YouTube channel, I actually founded a online apostolate, which I don't know if you know about, but and probably some of your listeners know
Yeah.
about, is 1 billion stories. So it's no longer, but was this website that published stories on YouTube from Catholics around the world. So
Wow.
what I would do is I would travel across the United States and around the world, and it was my full-time job actually for, I mean, basically a decade after college. And anyway, it did have to, it's on a big pause right now. That's a story for another day. But anyway, back to, discerning and figuring out, you have to, obviously, as a father and a husband, you need to take care of your family. That's your getting your family to heaven. That's your number one priority. So, um, through the YouTube channel and running, I have been fortunate enough now that I can do both, where pursue this, online media work, but also provide for the family at the same time, because sometimes those don't always add up. And sure enough, in 2021, I'm able to do so.
I think one of the real gifts that you bring is showing that fatherhood and that care that you have for your kids and your wife. What does that mean to you, I guess?
Yeah. It's a balancing act for those who might hop on the YouTube channel, where I have a daily vlog. So I publish a new video to YouTube every day. And it's a running focused YouTube channel. I'm a big runner, but at the same time, I always say, like, running is part of life, and obviously life is part of running. So I like to bring them together. And obviously, the third component is my faith, which I drop little hints every now and then, which you picked up on, sister. And so, the balancing act of knowing, like, I guess, Bridget and I, my wife, we had to really think about and talk about, like, basically, discern, okay, like, how much do we want to show as far as our family life, and obviously the kids and having them on YouTube. And you just have to really be aware of the world and what's going on. And
Mm.
we decided, 5 years ago, like, we're okay with sharing, our family, the domestic church, our life, eating, simple things like eating together dinner. A lot
Mm.
of families sadly don't do that, and that's like a big part of our daily family life, is sitting down to dinner together, with no TV on, no nothing, just like really there to chat and to catch up on how everyone's days were. So it is part of, that's been part of the discernment as well, as balancing YouTube and showing our family life. But we think it's actually important to do so in the modern world, just to show, and people really do appreciate it. They watch the channel. They're like, wow, they like, it just gives them hope. Because some people are still trying to find their spouse, or maybe grew up in a family where that was a broken home. So it really is interesting to hear the comments and read the comments from people that watch those types of vlogs. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a struggle for those who have, we would call it like a father wound, or
Yeah.
they didn't have that experience of that tenderness and love. And I think, at least from us, for a faith perspective, it's like it's another, fatherhood is the image of God the Father. And
Yeah.
so it's neat, because it reminds people that there is somebody watching over us. There's, God as Father who cares for us.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
So thank you for that. I mean, it's cool to see.
Sure.
And I think if you look at maybe a lot of other running channels that are very strictly, how to increase your pace or what have you,
Yeah.
um, there are these life lessons that are coming along that perhaps are really touching people that you're not
Yeah.
even aware of that.
Yep. Uh-huh. No, I agree completely. And again, it's the people comment, and oh gosh, it's hard because I want to film so much, and I can only do but so much in a daily vlog. But there are moments where I intentionally say, you know what, this is going to be an interesting kind of family experience, where I'm like, we are going to film this because it will, I do think it will help people out there watching. Yeah.
Do you have any particular stories? Because it's not just you and your life. You've built
Yeah.
this community of people who are supporting each other and trying to reach various goals or what have you. Any particular stories that jump out to you of people who've gone through adversity and overcome, or who shared with you how your content has touched them?
I do, and I do get a lot of, I save emails that people send me. Man, there are some, a lot of them are health related because it is a running channel. And so, a gentleman, he lost 100 pounds, and he was inspired through the channel to do that. And now he goes out and runs every day. And, he was in a kind of a hard place mentally. And so, anyway, but he said that he emailed me, and eventually we actually met up here in Denver, and I got to meet him in person. So that was a big moment. But there are some, oh man, I mean, I don't even know what to say. Like, there's just really challenging situations that I get emails where people are in a dark place. I don't know how else to say it. Just a really dark place, and they watch the channel, or they see the family, or I am, definitely always, people say I'm a positive person, which is great. And I appreciate those words, but I like to think it's just, my faith kind of radiating through me, that it is a tough world. It's challenging at times, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's greater things ahead for us. And that's where it comes from. And I don't always, as like it's a balance, like sharing, because I am speaking to a big audience of
Sure.
huge different backgrounds, and oh my goodness. So, but yeah, I do get those stories that are really moving, and it inspires me to keep, publishing every day.
Do you have a space to process that, or is that something that you take to prayer? How does that work for you?
Yeah, no, definitely to, mass, sometimes daily mass when I can get to daily mass, adoration, our parish has adoration all the time. Um, yeah, and I mean, I guess I'll just say, my big mountain runs as well. Like, it's a time to disconnect and go to the mountains and just kind of think when you're out there running for hours and hours on end. So
Right.
yeah, no, I do have places that yeah, just processing, and um because some of it is heavy, as and you just have to, yeah, find a spot and a time to process for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I run
Yeah.
also.
Okay.
I finished a marathon this past week. It was my
Oh,
second marathon ever, which is very exciting.
congrats.
Thank you so much. Embarrassingly slow, but we got it done and
Got it
raised
done.
some money.
Amen.
um,
That's awesome.
so what is it when you're at that point where it hurts, it's tough, you think, I can't believe I have to do X number of more miles, or I only have to run for this much longer. What
Yeah.
is it that gets you through those moments?
Yeah. And that's a great question. You've probably heard me talk about this. So before every race, I pick 3 intentions, and I actually take a permanent marker and I write them on my left wrist. So when
Mm.
it really starts to hurt, and a marathon, it's usually, maybe mile 16, 18, 20. So you still got, 6, 8, 10 miles to go, and you got to get through. So I just, yeah, I pick an intention and kind of offer the suffering up for these different intentions that I pick. So people have started doing that, who watch the vlog and see me do that on YouTube, where they have started to write down. And usually I don't share them with you. I just tell them that I'm writing them. Sometimes I'll do it after the race, depending on what I choose. But a lot of times I keep it personal to me, and I use it as kind of this, oh, just me, yeah, just this, and sometimes it's not an intention, but um more of like a reminder for prayer during the race. to also get me through those kind of darker, tougher moments. So that's kind of a very, specific action that I take in race. Yeah. Before races is write something on my wrist.
That really helps, I'm sure. Just giving you something to channel
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah. And then it's specifically, I'm always what I'm always repeating, and you've probably heard me say this, is eyes up, pump arms, quick feet. So just like from a running form, just like keeping your eyes up, not looking down, and then pumping arms, and then just keeping your feet kind of moving as quick as possible. So that's another thing that I repeat to myself.
Do you have any specific like favorite saints or devotions that you do that really help you or that you feel connected to?
That's awesome. Oh man. I mean, my confirmation saint is Saint Sebastian. So of course,
Excellent.
of course. And then, you know, I learned about, it's kind of funny. Yeah. Well, just like from a suffering standpoint, the story of the Stylites, you maybe have heard about the Stylite saints.
Say more about that.
So the Stylites, it was one, and I'm not even going to remember, this was like the 200s or 300s, where basically in the deserts of, I believe, like North Africa, to, I guess, as like, it started off a little bit as a penance, but basically this is crazy. So it's like this gentleman, and I'm not remembering his specific, but anyway, he created this. You're gonna think I'm crazy, but you got to look it up. Stylites. He created a pole, like a 30-foot or 40-foot pole in the deserts of North Africa, and he lived on top of this pole for years and years as like a penance, and like, but it was a lot of, and I think anyway, there was a lot of suffering in the process. So I think about this saint because in running there is a lot of suffering, and just kind of, again, uniting our suffering to Christ and Christ on the cross. Oh my goodness, I mean, oh, there's so many saints, but anyway, those are a couple that I Saint Sebastian and then the Stylites.
I just love knowing that there are people out there of faith living it out day to day in that fidelity, in that commitment to family and to married life. And I've always said that it's good to have, sisters and priests and consecrated people out there. But we also have to have good Christian doctors and teachers and folks like that who are out there, not necessarily like, hey, read this from the Bible kind of thing, but hey, these are life lessons that are really key. And so what's your perspective on that? You're not preaching the gospel as, everybody go read John 3 or whatever. You're doing it in a different way, in a unique way. Do you have some words to share maybe with people who think like, well, how am I supposed to live my faith if I'm doing X, Y, or Z?
Man. And, the culture has really shifted in the last 50 years. And so I think, we do have to, be aware of the culture that we live in, the society that we live in, and, do our best to meet people where they're at. I think it is at times good to, talk about John 3 or whatever the case may be. But at the same time, it is what I talk about in the vlog, like that virtue, trying to show, like, why does Seth write these words on his arm? Why does he have this brown thing around his neck? And so as far as encouragement to people, like, I just want to mention, like, if you watch any major marathon, New York City, Boston, London, Berlin, all these big city marathons, the elites, the best marathon runners in the world, almost every single time you go watch the men and the women, when they cross the finish line, they make the sign of the cross. It's just like a little reminder that, or even, I guess, like when we go to restaurants, we pray as a family before we eat. And it's you're not imposing anything on anyone else. You're living your faith in the public square. And it's like these little reminders to people, like the runners that cross the finish line and they make the sign of the cross when they finish. So, oh man, to answer your question, encouragement, like, oh, it's, obviously the easy answer is, be not afraid, but, what, JP2 always said. But it's like, I think it's really, good not to, if you start imposing things on people, they usually will shut off and they'll kind of run away. So the more that we can drop these little hints to people, like there is not a better way, but there is hope in this world if we live our life with, I'm always telling Bridget, like with authentic joy, in all that we do. And I think life is more fun and more enjoyable when you do let that authentic joy come forth. So even from I don't want to say a selfish standpoint, but for anybody listening, like just like to enjoy life more, if we let our faith shine through, it is going to be, I think, more enjoyable and more, and like
compelling.
Compelling. Yeah. And the world has challenges, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of good in the world that we can celebrate.
Yeah, Bishop Barron talks a lot about the three things: beauty, goodness, and truth. And his thing is, if you lead with truth, you turn people off. Like, this is what's right, this is what's wrong.
Yeah.
If you lead with goodness, that's not bad necessarily. That's okay, you should live this way, you should avoid doing this or that. But leading with beauty is something that really is a draw and attractive thing for people.
Yeah.
And so, I think of anything like that I would say in closing is to say thank you, because I think you are leading with beauty, not just with who you are and your personality, but it's the combination of all of that, of your editing skills, your ability to draw people in, and your joy. And I think that really is something that is compelling. So thank you for what you do with that.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, I appreciate that. And even as my hoodie says, that's why I say at the end of every vlog, seek beauty, work hard, love each other. And there's but that seek beauty, it's like, I say that because, well, just for what you just said, but also it's like as runners, we have the opportunity every day to, whether we live in a big city or whether we live in the mountains, like if we open our eyes and our hearts to what's around us, it really is beautiful what has been created, for us to experience as, humans on this earth. So that's why I say that seek beauty at the end of the vlogs.
So if people want to find you, where can they find you? Do your plugs and all of the rest.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. And so my name is Seth, Seth, and then my last name is deMoor, DEMOOR. And if you type that into YouTube, you'll definitely find the channel, even though the channel is called Seth James deMoor. But just type in my first and last name. And then on social media, it's usually Seth James deMoor everywhere. So it's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Seth James, no E at the end of deMoor.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, greetings to your wife and kids. Thank you so much for taking the time. It really means a lot. It's awesome.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me on.